Hey guys, this is Josh here with Trillium Wild Edibles, and today I want to shoot a video for you guys on making Mullein tea. This is a great way to help relieve chest congestion as mullein is a powerful expectorant. However, I'm also going to be adding the inner bark of the white pine to this tea just to kick it up a notch and increase its effectiveness. However, whenever you go to make your tea, you can use just the mullein itself, and that's mainly what we're going to be focusing on in this video. Whenever you're making a mullein tea, it doesn't matter whether you're using the leaves and or the flowers and or the root. You can use either one or all three in combination. It doesn't matter whether you use them fresh or dried either. So that's really nice, and that's one of the beneficial things to mullein is you can use it fresh or dried, and you can use the leaves, you can use the flowers, and you can use the root for this tea. So here you can see this jar of dried mullein leaf that I have, and you can see this was gathered on August of 2015. So this was gathered last year, and these are still plenty good to go. This is the last jar that I have of this mullein leaf, and I'm not even going to be using all of it because to make a mullein tea, all you really need is just a couple tablespoons of the dried leaf. You can use anywhere from 1 to 2 tablespoons. I usually like to use about 1.5 tablespoons of dried mullein leaf whenever I make my tea. Something else you might want to think about whenever you make your mullein tea is using a steep sack or a tea ball. The reason for that is instead of actually steeping or making an infusion, we actually have to make a decoction. So what that means is we actually have to boil the mullein. And I like to use these steep sacks just because I find them a little easier to use and I don't have to do a whole lot of cleaning like I do with a tea ball. And I find tea balls rust rather easily in my experience. However, you may enjoy using a tea ball, and that's perfectly acceptable. Another thing we're going to do to help boost up the properties of this tea is we're going to be using raw honey, which you can see I have this huge gigantic jar of raw honey here. So we're going to be using that as well. Now another thing I'm going to be doing to be kicking this up a notch is I'm actually going to be going out in my yard and I'm going to be gathering some inner bark from the white pine. Now the inner bark of the white pine and the young sprigs, which come out in the spring, the very young green twigs and the young needles, are also a really good expectorant. However, it's kind of, late summer right now and almost the beginning of fall, so the young sprigs aren't really accessible. However, the inner bark is still plenty good to go. So I'm going to take you guys outside, we're going to harvest some of that up, and we'll come back inside, and then we're going to make our mullein tea. Alright, now I'm just going to reach in here and I'm just going to grab some mullein leaf. I only need a couple tablespoons of leaf here, so it shouldn't take very much. Alright, my water is starting to boil. I don't know if you can hear that yet, but we are almost there. I'm just going to tear these up a little bit. This will help the herb to extract faster. This will help the medicinal qualities out of the mullein leaf, which is an expectorant. Mullein leaf is a really good expectorant, which helps you to clear up the chest and the lungs. It also contains a lot of mucilage, which all of our esophagus and throats and passageways are lined with mucus and mucous membranes. Most of the internal workings of our body are lined with mucus or mucous membranes. So having something that's high in mucilage is really good for a lot of the inner workings of the body. So that's another good reason to drink mullein tea. Alright, there we go. We've got ourselves a good amount of mullein leaf all broken up, ready to go. So now I'm just going to stuff this inside of the sack, added to that white pine inner bark. My water's boiling very well here. Not going to worry about all the little pieces left behind. Now what I simply like to do with these to keep the herb from spilling out is a nice good sharp twist. You take the top up like that, fold it down, wrap it around, and then twist again. I find this helps to really keep the herbs inside of the bag, and it helps to keep the herbs from falling out. Now like I said, you can use a tea ball for this if you enjoy using tea balls. I don't personally like to use tea balls, however you may like to use them, and that's perfectly acceptable. So now that I've got this ready, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop it inside there. And now we're just going to let this boil for 10 to 15 minutes. Alright, now that our mullein and white pine inner bark tea is done, the thing we want to do now is we just want to turn it off. Now at this point you can choose to let this sit for a few more minutes and continue to let the stuff extract. It's not going to hurt anything. In fact, it'll just make it a little bit more stronger and a little bit more effective. So that's up to you. However, when you are ready to take it out, just get yourself a fork or an implement of any sort that'll really help you pull this out without burning yourself. That's the thing to really keep in mind. And what I like to do is I like to press the edge of the bag up against the pan. And that helps to release any extra moisture, any extra water that the herbs have absorbed, because they will absorb a lot of liquid. So go ahead and kind of strain it out that way. Alright, so now that I've got myself a nice good teaspoonful of raw honey, I'm just going to set this inside of the cup. And then what I like to do is I like to pour the hot tea over top, because I find it helps to melt the honey just a lot faster. So we pour that over top, and now we're just going to let that cool down enough so that way we can actually drink it, obviously without burning our mouth. Just kind of stir it around, help that honey dissolve. Alright, now my tea is nice and cooled off. Now whenever it comes to taking this, you're probably going to have to make yourself a couple cups a day to actually help relieve the congestion. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. So I'm not going to really be able to show, it working and, me coughing up all kinds of gunk, because that's really not going to be pleasant to watch anyways. However, this does work, and I do use it very, very frequently. As far as the taste, honestly to me, it tastes very reminiscent of a kind of a black and green tea blend. It tastes great. There's not a nasty, barky pine taste that you might expect from the pine bark, which is really good. Also, the mullein leaf itself tastes great. Adding raw honey of any kind, any honey that you enjoy the flavor of, will help make this tea taste even better. And like I said, will also increase its efficiency, because the honey helps to kind of coat the throat, which will help the stuff to slide out better, as well as the expectorant qualities within the pine bark and the mullein leaf itself. So I thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. If you want to learn more about edible or medicinal plants, make sure to subscribe.